Welcome to Sakshi TV's special immigration show with attorney Ms. Prashanthi Reddy from Law Offices of Prashanthi Reddy PLLC. Before we begin the show, please note that the information provided on this show is not a legal advice and for general information purposes only. Sakshi TV or its agent will not be responsible for use of information. If you need specific legal advice, please contact the attorney directly. Please dial the phone numbers that are displayed on the screen to talk to the attorney, Ms. Prashanthi Reddy, right now. Hello, Prashanthi. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Kalpana. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thanks.
It's great. Could you please provide information on your law offices, practice areas, and your experience?
My law firm is called the Law Offices of Prashanthi Reddy. We're located in Manhattan. And we practice immigration law, and we have over 22 to 23 years of experience. And if anyone needs to reach me for further questions that they have after the show, they can email me, prashanthi@reddyesq.com, or you can also call 212-354-1010 extension. I'll give you my extension, it's 107, or you can just press 0.
Great. So today's topic is knowledge session on H1B registration process and updates part 4. So before getting on to the topic, do we have any immigration updates?
Right. So I will, the updates are kind of interrelated to the whole H1B registration process. So the first thing is that just before the previous administration left, they tried to implement a lot of changes, like midnight regulations were published just to displace the whole H1B process, because they pretty much the previous administration was against H1s and they were trying to undermine the H1 process as much as they could. So there are two possible regulations that we need to talk about today. One is both are related to the H1B cap, so that's why we need to talk about them. One is directly related to the H1B registration. Just so as a background, the H1B registration process started last year, and it's part of the H1B cap process. And for those who don't know, we have a H1B, limited number of H1Bs that can be filed, new H1s that can be filed every year. It's 65,000 for everyone else and 20,000 for advanced degree holders, like master's degree holders. So altogether, we only have 85,000 H1s that can be filed every year. And usually the fiscal year starts in October, but we are able to file 6 months in advance. So we can start filing generally by April 1st. But the problem is that usually the demand is so much higher than the supply that usually 3 times that number of cases are filed, 3 or 4 times. So what's been happening is that USCIS has been conducting the lottery system every year from the past many years, because there's been a gap between the demand and the supply. As I said, at least 3 or 4 times that amount are usually filed. And so because they can't accept all cases, they have a lottery system whereby it's a random lottery, and then they select the cases and return the rest. Now, since last year, they started something new called the registration system, whereby you can pre-register your H1 through a simple online form, and then they'll conduct the lottery system. And then once your case is selected in the lottery, then you have 90 days to file the actual H1 petition. So this is a much better and more efficient way of doing things, because otherwise in the past, people were had to send out completed H1B packages only for them to be returned. So to avoid that paperwork and the monetary cost and everything, they came up with this H1B registration process. Now, this was successfully implemented last year. There were some computer glitches last year because it was the first time that it was being implemented, but they did correct those glitches, in a few days after the program started, about a week or so. So this time the H1B registration is starting on March 9th and is completing at 12, I believe, noon on March 25th. So that's your deadline, folks, to file your registration. March 9th to March 25th is the deadline. Within that time period, you have to go online, open an account for yourself on USCIS website and register. So we'll talk about the process of registering in a short while. But first, what I want to talk about is the rule that could affect that registration. So, as I said, the Trump administration published a few rules, and one of them is that they wanted to do away with the random lottery system, like I was just talking about, that it's a computer generated lottery, and they wanted to create a lottery system based on prevailing wages, which means that they would first choose. Now there are 4 wages when you file a H1. There are 4 prevailing wages that you can use: level 1, level 2, level 3, and level 4. So what they want to do is first do a lottery for level 4 wages, then go to level 3 wages, level 2 wages, level 1, so on and so forth. And so they want to do away with that random lottery system. We just found out a few days ago, last week, that the Biden administration has postponed this new H1B registration process, but it hasn't gone away. So we still need to find out the details of what it's about. They've simply postponed it to December 31st. So it won't affect this year's lottery, but it might still affect like next year's lottery if they decide to keep it, depending on whatever changes they want to make, right? So as I said, it pretty much is a wages-based lottery system. So if you're being offered, if you're like an entry-level position and you're being offered level 1A wages, it's unlikely that you will make it in the lottery. So if you're level 4, it's likely that you will. If you use a private wage survey, which you can, we're talking about the Department of Labor wage surveys, but you can also use a private wage survey. But if that wage survey is equivalent to wage level 1, they'll treat it as the DOL wage level 1. Also, if you're working in multiple locations, then USCIS is going to look at the lowest, the salary, the lowest corresponding wage salary for the location which has the lowest wage. If there's no prevailing wage information available for your job title, USCIS will pretty much look at similar job titles and then make the comparison.
Okay. Actually, sorry to interrupt. We have a caller online. So let's take the call and then we can continue it further. So yeah, we have Vishal from South California. Hi, Vishal.
Hello, ma'am. How are you? Can you hear me?
I'm good. How are you? Vishal, go ahead.
Yeah. Ma'am, actually, I think I put this question last week, but because of lack of time, we cannot talk more. This is the same question. My daughter, who will be aging out in January 2022. And so what are the options she has to convert to an F1 visa? She is in second year of her college. So we don't have much time. I believe about 11 months from now. So what is the best way to get the F1 visa?
So if she is presently on a H4, you can file for change of status from a H4 to an F1.
Yeah, but the thing is that this will take too much time. And what other people are, even the university is suggesting, go out of the country and do the stamping and come back. That will be quite easy and quite quickly. Is that what you also suggest?
No, my suggestion is to file a change of status here, because if she leaves the country and if she's not able to get an appointment at the consulate because of COVID, the appointments are very limited. Or if for some reason it gets denied, then what happens? Then she's stuck. And you guys will be here and she will be outside the country. That's not something you want, right? So my suggestion is to do a change of status, file a change of status form. You just have to file it. As long as you file it, she's fine. Then she doesn't fall out of status. So there is no, the only deadline is that you have to file it before the 11-month period, before she turns 21. And also the other thing which you need to look at is classes need to start before that. So as long as the classes start before she turns 21, and it's a continuing thing because I think she's already in school, right? She's already in second year. So you don't even have to worry about the classes starting because it's a continuous thing. She's already enrolled. So then it's only a question of change of status from being filed. It doesn't have to be actually approved. So my suggestion is to file a change of status rather than leaving the country and coming back in. The other reason why I don't suggest leaving and coming back is if she filed a 485, she has the intent to immigrate. And on an F1, you cannot have the intent to immigrate. So that will work against her more when she's out of the country and coming back rather than while she's still in the country. So it goes without saying that you have to withdraw the 485 application, right? Because you cannot have an immigrant petition filed if you're filing for a change of status to an F1. But the thing is, even if you withdraw, if she's outside the country, they might say, oh, the entire family is going to get a green card. She will immigrate soon. So sorry, we cannot give her the F1. So that is another potential reason for denial of the F1 visa. So my suggestion is to file a change of status for now, and then see what happens.
Case has not gone that much far. I'm just in my I-140 has been approved, and I'm in my 8th or 9th year in EB2 category. And with EB2 category, current my priority date is in 2016. So we have, I think, long.
Oh, I thought you already filed. You did not file the 485 as yet?
Not yet.
Okay. So then you don't have to worry about any intent issue because there's no 485 file for her. There's an I-140 file for you, but that doesn't apply to her. So then simply do the change of status from H4 to F1 before she turns 21.
Okay. And let's assume we are not getting before she turns 21. And so what are the options we have then? What is the period from that 21th birthday to the F1 approval date? Let's say the bridge, like for example, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, we don't know yet. But let's take that there is a situation where she has...
It could take 6+ months for processing of a change of status. So file in advance.
Yeah.
So my suggestion is file in advance, and remember, it doesn't have to be approved. It only has to be filed. So as long as you filed, you're good.
Thank you, Vishal. We have other caller, Vishnu from Maryland. Hi, Vishnu.
Hi, ma'am. How are you?
Good, Vishnu.
Yeah. So I have a couple of questions. Like, I just started like a consulting company. So I got approval a couple of weeks ago. So I have hired some consultants. I would like to file H1B for them. I just registered company, the place where I am at right now. It's not like a corporate office. It is just my double-bedroom apartment, and I registered company. I just make it as like a 1-bedroom, like a office room, and other bedroom like my apartment or something like that. So my consultants did not get a job yet, but I want file H1B for them. So is there any chance that I can, even though if it is picked up, is there any chances that we could file, like we could send the paperwork, like in-house projects or something like that? If any suggestions, that would be really appreciated.
Yeah, so good luck with your business. But in order to file the H1, my suggestion is that it's not a suggestion, actually, it's a requirement. You have to take a commercial space. You cannot operate out of your home office because there's something called the VIBE database, and they check every single case as to what the address is, whether it's zoned for residential or commercial. So first thing you need to do if you want to file anything with immigration is start off by taking a small space. As long as it's a commercial space, really with the size of it, or you can even sublet it from another friend of yours who has an office space, maybe, as long as it's a commercial space. So that's one requirement that you need to get done quickly before because you don't want to change the address. Whatever the address is there in the registration, you want to continue that address. So my suggestion is to get it done. I mean, you can change the address when you file the H1, but then you have to explain that, the address has been changed and, this is the change. So if you want to avoid that, I mean, it's just to make things simpler. Second thing is, you generally, when you're filing, you have to show that you have a valid job offer, and that is not a frivolous case when you're filing the H1 with USCIS. So the registration itself, there are no documents that need to be provided. Of course, it cannot be frivolous, because if you get picked and then you don't file, then you have to explain as to why you didn't file. You cannot say, I didn't have a job. Then they'll say, then why did you register? So you don't have to show proof of business, what business you have, PO and client letter, etc. You don't have to show it at the time of registration, but you definitely have to show it, obviously at the time of filing the H1. Now you have 90 days to file the H1. So April, May, June. So before June 30th or 31st, you have to file the H1. So you have to have documentation to show worksite, etc., because you have to file an LCA by that time.
Okay, if my consultants get a job, in those 3 months, I could file papers for them without any issues.
That's correct, because, yeah.
Yeah, so one more question. So I registered the company as a registered agent by myself. Is that any impact on the filing H1Bs and stuff like that? Or is it like, what do you suggest? Like, do I have to go for an attorney, for registered agent or something like that?
No, a registered agent can be anyone. It doesn't have to be an attorney. It's sometimes when there's no one else available, they make, the registered agent as the person, whoever is registering, they become the agent. But it can be anyone.
So Prashanthi Garu, let's go with the other question. Are you ready for the upcoming H1B season for fiscal year 2021? With the registration period fast approaching, we want to make sure, everything about the new mandatory H1B registration process for fiscal year 2021 in detail, and what is the electronic registration process?
Right. So I think we were talking about that new registration process, and luckily, I think I've covered all that, and luckily, it's not starting this year, but it's something that you need to know. But yeah, I think we're ready to go into the actual registration process now, and what has to be done and how it has to be done. So the first step, I guess, in the registration process is to go to myuscis.gov, and you have to sign up. And when you sign up, then you have to give an email address. You'll get an email confirmation. Then you have to click sign up, create a password. You'll get the password confirmation. And then you have to create a two-step verification method. So it could be text or email or SMS or whatever it is. So the system will walk you through all those steps. And then, of course, there'll be a secret question whereby, you can, it'll help you remember your password in case you forget it. And then what is important is once you open that MyUSCIS account, you have to select, I am a H1B registrant. So you have to particularly select that drop down. There are other drop downs such as I am an attorney, I'm a petitioner. You should not select any of those. You should select I am a H1B registrant. If you select something else, then you will not be able to register. So the next step is to start a registration. Now, if you are going to be doing it on your own and you're not using an attorney, then you should just start the registration. And there's several fields that have to be filled out, and we will go through that one by one. Now, if you are using an attorney, though, what will happen is you have to select the second box, not the first one, to start a registration, but you have to select the box which has received a password from your attorney or representative. So what will happen is when you register, your attorney will fill out the information that needs to be filled out instead of you filling it out, and then they will send it to you. they will send a passcode. You have to enter that passcode, so you'll be able to view both the form as well as the G28. So once you review that, all your work is just to review the G28 and the form, and then just hit accept. And then you should say, I accept the H1B registration, click next. And then there'll be an authorization box which has to be marked, and then you sign. And then you just to finish and send, and your attorney will get that confirmation, and then your attorney will process the next step and will submit that to USCIS, right? So if you have to fill it out on your own, or also if you're doing it through an attorney, there is some information that you would need. What is that information? I think we should talk about that now. So we would need the name of the H1B applicant, the first name, middle name, family name, the gender, whether the person has a US master's or a bachelor's, the employee's or beneficiary's date of birth, country of citizenship, and passport number. If there's no passport number for some reason because they don't have a passport, there's an option to check that there's no passport number, but I would caution you against this because if you have two people with the same name and same date of birth, even if they're not the same people, since they have no way of checking, they usually cross-check with the passport number. If they have no way of cross-checking with the passport number, they will most probably deny one of the cases as a duplicate filing, reject one of the cases as a duplicate filing. So be careful. Please make sure you enter the passport number. Then from the company, you need the legal name of the company, the DBA name if you have a DBA name, your employer identification number, and of course the office address. Like I was telling the other caller that you have to put in the office address at this point. So if you plan to take a new office, do it now. Otherwise, you'll have to change when you're filing the H1, and that's not an issue, but it's more prudent to do it now if you have to do it anyway. Now, some things to remember, because you might already have an account from last year. So if you do H1s, if you're a company and you do H1s, so make sure you log into that and make sure that it is still active. Otherwise, you might have to open another account and you'll have to use a separate email address this time. You cannot use the same email address. If you have not created an account and not filed any H1s last year, make sure that you create an account before the attorney enters your information into their system. Because if you do it after, then you will not be able to pair the attorney's records and your records. So it's important that you do it before. And once you've done it, then inform your attorney and then they will do the registration for you. And of course, as I said, you have to select I am a H1B registrant. Don't select I am a petitioner. I know that's the more likely thing that you would want to select is I am a petitioner, but you should select I am a H1B registrant. Again, the email that you use to register, make sure the same email is given to your attorney so that they enter that email address into their system. Sometimes beneficiaries don't have a first name or last name, so make sure you put in the correct nomenclature for it. So if it's first name unknown, then you put FNU. If it's last name unknown, you put LNU. If there's no name given, you write no name given. But you can't leave it blank. So make sure you fill out all the columns. At this point, you don't need an LCA to complete the electronic registration. So a lot of people have that question as to whether an LCA is needed or not. And yes, an LCA is not needed for this process. Now, make sure you enter the information correctly the first time. Because once the registration is submitted, there's no way of editing that or making any changes. So everything has to be mentioned correctly. The name, date of birth, passport number, company name, company address. Make sure you mention the name of the beneficiary as per their passport. And also, I mean, a lot of you who are tech people will already know, but clear your cookies on a regular basis. So that's the process for registering your company online.
Okay. We have again Vishal online from South California. So Vishal?
Ma'am, another question I do have is my wife is in H4 and she was working in EAD. and but that EAD is expiring this week, and we applied for renewal almost 2 months back. But the situation is that the EAD renewal is taking anywhere from 4 months to 7 months. So meanwhile, while the application is still pending, can she continue with her job, or that's the problem?
If the EAD expires, unfortunately, she cannot continue with her job. And you are right. It is taking 6 to 8 months for the H4 EAD to be approved. The good news is there are several lawsuits pending on that matter. So hopefully something will come up because everybody is aware of the situation and they are trying to correct it. But let's see what happens. But in your case right now, she cannot work if her H4 EAD expires. She has to wait until it gets approved. You don't have to wait for the actual EAD to come in, but at least the I-797 approval should come in.
Okay, thank you. And the other one is, since you know already that my daughter is aging out 21, so they all got till January 10, 2022. So my wife also got that time. But my own H1 is valid till 2023. So if she goes out and do the stamping based on me, so she will get till 2023. But she has to apply again the extension of EAD that time?
Yes, because the EAD will be given only for most probably for the validity of the H4, unfortunately. So she would have submitted the H4 approval. The validity will be until that period only. So she has to get an extension again and file for H4 extension and H4 EAD again together.
Okay. So when I file for that, what will happen to the application which is already pending with the USCIS?
It will remain pending and will get approved at some point.
Oh, okay.
So whichever gets approved first, you can start using that.
Yeah. Thank you, Vishal, for calling. Let's go back to the questions. And yeah, the next question would be like, what is the information needed for the H1B registration, and also the main points to remember at the time of the registration? I think we covered this one in the previous questions, but there are like documents or any key points to remember. Yeah.
Right. So basically, the key points to remember is that you cannot make any mistakes, because if there's something in the registration that you fill out, once you submit it, you cannot make changes, go back and make changes to it. So make sure you submit correct information. The second thing is make sure you do it as a H1B registrant. I think the third key thing is duplicates are not allowed. So if you are an employer, or and if you're putting two registrations for the same person, then both will get rejected. Remember, it's not like one will get rejected and one will get denied. Both will get rejected. So duplicates are not allowed strictly. Also, if it's two different companies, if you are a beneficiary, two different companies are applying for your registration, right? And both the companies have the same underlying job, then also both will get denied. So you cannot have two companies filing for the same job. So keep that in mind as well. So they will know this through, if both get picked, then if there's an RFE, then this is how they find out that it's really the same job, because you're submitting the same PO. So it's possible for them to find out. So that's something else to keep in mind.
Okay. Is there an appeal process for registration determined to be invalid duplicates?
Yeah, so there you cannot appeal that, unfortunately. If it is indeed a duplicate, then there's nothing you can really do. There's no appeal process actually.
Okay. Sure. If you are registering for the master's cap based on the expectation that the beneficiary will earn a qualifying advanced degree, and you are actually selected under the master's cap, but the beneficiary does not obtain their qualifying advanced degree, is there a risk that the cap subject H1B petition for the beneficiary will be denied.
The question here is that you don't have your degree copy as yet, but you're registering under the master's cap. So that's one of the information that you have to give, right, when you're registering, as we discussed earlier, whether it's under bachelor's or under master's. So remember, you have to only qualify at the time of filing the actual H1. You don't need to show that you qualify at the time of the registration. So it's possible that at the time of the registration, maybe you didn't complete your H1, but you actually did by the time you filed the H1 petition. So as long as you're able to show the master's degree at the time of actually filing the I-129 application within that 90-day period, then you're fine. Your case will not be denied.
Okay. We have a caller online, Shri from North Carolina. Hi, Shri.
Hi, madam. So I just have one question. So my H1 is getting expired. The max out is happening by May first week of this year. And I just want to check whether I'm eligible for a new H1 a new H1 lottery registration and for 2022 March to June period. So, like, there is some cooling period of 1 year is there, right? And so, just want to check whether I'll be eligible for next year H1B cap.
So, from what I understand, you're saying that your 6 years are getting over?
Yes.
So if your 6 years are getting over, in order to get an additional period on your H1, there are several ways of doing it, right? So one way is, like you suggested, that cooling period, but that doesn't occur by you staying in the country. So if you if you leave the country and stay outside the country for a period of 1 year, and then again file for a H1, what will happen is then you'll be subject to the H1 cap. You have to file under the cap, and then you're filing for a new term of 6 years. Again, you get a new term of 6 years. So that's one way of doing it, but that has to be done from outside the country. You have to be outside the country for that 1 year, not in a different status, right? So another way is, of course, you might know if your labor is pending for 365 days or I-140 is pending, or a combination of the two that's pending for 365 days, then you'll get a 1 year extension on your H1. Or if your I-140 is approved, as you know, you will get a 3 year extension on your H1. So one of these things has to happen. And if it doesn't, then you might want to consider either leaving or filing for a change of status.
Yes, ma'am. So it is something like PERM or 140 is not being filed for me. So my only option is that I have to leave the country by May first week. So 2022 new H1 I'll be eligible, right? Because we have time till June end to register to file a H1, right? So then I'll be still eligible for next year cap, right? For new cap, H1B cap.
You may not be. That's a good question, because you have to show that that's a good question actually. So you have to show the requirement is that you spend 1 year outside the country before being eligible for the new, to be eligible to file again for 6 years. So nobody's stopping you from, I think so, because no one is stopping you from filing the registration. There's no question, the information asked with reference to that. You're filing under the cap, and you're asking for an additional 6 years. So as long as you show that as of the date of filing you have met that requirement, I think it should be fine.
So 1 year from May first week would be 2021 May to 2022 May 1 year, and still we have 2022 June end, right? So we have some nearly more than 1.5 months of time. So once I cross that 1 year, I think, as you said, like I'll be good to go with.
Yeah, you can file your H1 consular processing and then, get a visa.
Okay, good.
Thank you, Shri. We have other caller, Vamsi from Chicago. Hi, Vamsi.
Hi, this is Kadir from Chicago.
Yeah, hi. Go ahead with your question.
Hi. My question is like, I recently received my EAD advanced parole for filing the 485. So, and I have the H1B approval notice actually. So my visa got expired, but my H1B approval notice is like valid until 2023 actually. So my attorney and a lot of people suggested like you still keep on the H1B, get stamped, and keep on renewing. Don't use the advanced parole while entering the country. But for family emergency, I have to travel next week actually. So getting the visa slots in Chennai is difficult actually. So what are the disadvantages like if I use the advanced parole while entering instead of getting stamped in India?
So I don't know which attorney you spoke to and why they gave you that advice, because it's a well-known fact that, and Ayla has been saying that, and you can contact other attorneys as well, but it's quite common knowledge that there is an exception if you're on a H1, which means that you can maintain a dual status almost. So to give you an example, now as long as you have your advance parole approved, you can leave the country, come back on an advance parole, and still continue to maintain your H1 status if that's what you want to do. So simply coming back on advance parole does not change your status from that of a H1 to a pending 485. So that is, and you can do your research on the internet as well. But that is a common policy that has been used by USCIS for many years now. And there was some gray area about it during Trump's term, especially during COVID, the beginning of last year. There was some suggestion that maybe that is not the case, but even that was cleared up by USCIS officials that it could be done. So again, there is no issue leaving on an advance parole and coming back to a H1 status. So there's no need for you to go for a visa to the consulate.
Okay, so like once I go to India, come back in the port of entry, I can show the EAD advanced parole card, and I come and keep on extending my H1B every 3 years. So if there is something happened when issuing the green card, when the time comes for it, and if for some reason if my 485 got rejected or anything like that, so still my H1B status is valid, so I could able to switch employer, right?
That's correct, and that's why some people are maintaining their H1 because they don't want to fall out of status if something happens with the 485. Also, some people are doing that because of the age out. Like our earlier caller had that problem where his child was aging out in 11 months. So some people are doing that, maintaining H1 so that the child doesn't automatically fall out of status, but has a chance to change status within the US without leaving the country. So there are several reasons why people are doing that, maintaining H1 as well as keeping the 485.
Okay then. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. We have other caller, Prabhakar from Virginia. Hi, Prabhakar.
Yeah, hi, madam. Good evening.
Good evening.
Hello. Yeah, hi. So I have one question actually. So I'm on H1B and my spouse on H4. So she's planning to go for studies here on F1. So what are the steps do we need to follow? Do we need to convert this H4 as an F1 visa? For that again, do we need to go to India and take the stamping? Or what is the process? I just want to know.
So you can go to school on a H4 status also. But of course, you won't get the benefit of that CPT, OPT, all that. So in order to get that benefit, you'll have to file for a change of status. You can file for a change of status from H4 to F1 here in the country. You don't have to leave the country. And the change of status, if it gets approved, she can start attending classes. The only requirement is that she has to continue maintaining status until the classes actually start, so there should be no gap. That's something to keep in mind. And then when she's ready to travel next time, then she can go for a visa then. So there's no need, especially now with COVID and with the consulates being closed and visa appointments difficult to get, there's no need for her to go for a visa now. She can just file for a change of status.
Okay, so until unless we are traveling back to India, we no need to go for the stamping, and we can continue even for 2 years if we are not travel to India. If we are here, even H4, we just apply F1 visa and we can go with the studies. Am I correct?
Yes, you can file a change of status here, change your status, and you don't have to leave unless you're leaving the country. You don't need a visa.
Oh, okay. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Prabhakar, for calling. We have other caller, Babu from Dallas. Hi, Babu.
Hey, Kalpana. Good evening. Hi, Prashanthi ma'am.
Hi, Babu.
Hey, I have two questions. One is currently I'm on H1B and on the extension, and which is going to expire in the 22 August. And currently mine is applied for I-140, but I'm not sure what the status is. One more thing, my form is approved on October. So is there any chance, like, do I need to go for premium for I-140? Because I have a lot of time, so I did not go for premium for I-140. That is one question. And the other question is, actually my first H1B approved in 2016, but I came in the 2017 April. So I missed some period. So I'm not going to get that period. So how can I get that missed period? So these are the two questions, ma'am. Ma'am.
So your 6 years period is calculated from the date that you actually came and started working on a H1. It's not calculated from the time that you got the H1. That is irrelevant. So your 6 years just calculated from the date that you arrived into the country on a H1. So that's already, so that 1 year, extra 1 year you already get if you calculate it that way. And with reference to whether you need to file I-140 premium processing or not, when is your 6 years expiring? How long do you have?
It's currently it is approved till 22 August.
I know, but is that the same date that the 6 years is expiring? Doesn't matter until when it's approved. Sometimes they give more, sometimes they give less.
They give exactly, first time they give 3 years, and the extension also given 3 years. So
right, but then you said that you didn't come into the country until a year, so that means you have 1 more year. So your actual 6 years period is expiring next year. So you have plenty of time. If you don't want to upgrade it to premium processing, you can decide that later. If you don't want to do it now, see how it goes and decide that a few months later.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Babu. So let's get back to our questions. How will USCIS address a scenario where the prospective employer with a selected registration puts an address on their registration but moves before they file their I-129 petition, such that the address on their registration and form I-129 do not match?
Right. So this is what this was exactly addresses that situation with the other caller, where they have a home office, and then I had suggested them to change the address now itself so that it'll be the same address on the registration as well as the I-129 petition. But even if that is not so, it's not like they're going to deny the I-129 petition. So they will still approve it, but you have to give an additional explanation as to why the address doesn't match. So for example, if you've taken a lease after that and you've moved after that, you have to show a copy of the lease. You have to show address proof information to show that your actual address or new address is the address that you put down in the I-129 petition. So that has to be bold and highlighted and put in the front of the package so that they don't get confused with the mismatch. So it won't get denied, but some additional work is involved to show why the change happened or why the address doesn't match.
Okay. We have other caller, Ram from Virginia. Hi, Ram.
How are you, ma'am?
Good,
Hello.
Thanks.
Okay. Ma'am, actually, we applied for H4 EAD in month of November, but we did not get the receipt till last week. But last week we got the receipt after regular follow-ups with the USCIS and lockbox. But my H4 EAD application, they are showing the submission date was November 10th. But how long it takes to get the approval, ma'am, for the H4 EAD? And regarding my H4 also, it got approved, but I did not receive the original copy till today.
So H4 EAD, how long it takes is a golden question. It's taking 6, 8, 10 months sometimes. And that's a big question of the hour as to why it's taking so long, and there is a lot of litigation going on, and Ombudsman's office is involved, and congressmen are involved. So yeah, this is a big problem right now because it's taking so long, and it's taking that long even for OPTs, for students as well, and their OPT is only for a year. So if it takes 6 months for them to approve it, then they've lost half their OPT period, which is what is happening. So this is a big issue. So yes, you can expect that it will take 6 to 8 months for approval.
But it is showing that it went to Nebraska Service Center actually.
Okay, right. And Nebraska is not better or worse. It's everybody is taking that long. So the other question with reference to your H4 approval not receiving it, maybe, I mean, you have to keep following up with them. If they're saying that it's lost in the mail and it was not returned to them, then they might ask you to file a duplicate petition. So you have to again spend additional money and file the I-864 duplicate petition to get a duplicate H4 approval. My suggestion is to follow up with them first. Couple of times, I know it's.
I got approval showing approved in the online USCIS case status, but later I didn't receive the copies of original till today.
Yes. So when was it approved?
It was approved in January first week, but till now I did not receive the approval.
Right. So you have to call them. They will not send it to you just like that. Maybe they sent it and it was returned back. The post office is really bad. You know, during COVID, a lot of mail has been lost. So you have to keep calling them. And you can call because it's a H4. So keep calling them until they send you another copy. If you don't call, they will not send it.
Oh, they will not send it? Okay.
They will not.
Okay. We need to call them continuously to USCIS.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So because I have a valid visa till May only. So any issues before that?
No, if it's approved, if it is already approved, you're fine. But you need to have proof of your approval, right? So you're fine. You're not out of status. But you need to. 1 month is a long time. By now they should have sent it. So you should follow up.
I'm talking about EAD, ma'am. EAD is approved. I approved visa till May only, actually.
Oh, so you might be out of luck because they'll only approve the EAD till May then.
Oh, okay. Is there any other?
Because the H4 approval and the H4 EAD has to coincide. They cannot give EAD beyond the period of the H4. So you have to, while it's pending, you have to file another extension then.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Ram. We have other caller, Shokalingam from Chicago. Hi.
Hey, this is Kadrivan Shokalingam. So this is the call I just made a few minutes back regarding that advanced parole and the H1B status, maintaining the both actually. So I have a 2-question addition to it actually. So what I want to just confirm is for some reason if 480 get denied, so my H1B I have to find a new employer to do that, or I can be with the same employer and have to go through all the process again actually.
So your 485 has nothing to do with your H1. If your 485 gets denied, it could be for many reasons. It could be for any reason, right? It could be something related to you and not to your employer. So your H1 has nothing to. The 485 denial doesn't cause an automatic denial of your H1. Until your H1 is denied, you don't have to worry about the H1 because it's still valid until it's denied. So a denial of a 485 doesn't cause automatic denial of H1.
Okay, so the H1 will be still valid, so I could able to find a new employer and I could able to transfer it.
You can transfer your H1, yes, if you want to. If you don't want to stay with the same employer, correct.
Okay.
You can all continue to stay with the same employer. As I said, 485 denial has nothing to do with the H1.
Okay. Oh, okay. Then I have to find what is the reason it got denied, and I have to fix the problem.
Right.
Okay. Okay. And the second question is like, since I'm going this for the family emergency, so currently I'm in the H1B actually. So can I my employer's perspective, they are fine with working from India, but for the immigration purpose, they are a little bit concerned actually. So is there any rule defined exactly by the USCIS or something like that? I should not work from outside of the US?
If you leave the country, then the USCIS rules don't apply to you, remember. So you're not under their purview of rules. You can do whatever you want.
Okay, but my employer told we will contact the immigration firm about it actually. So I don't know.
Well, if they are going to, if they don't want to keep your employment open, and then they might withdraw the H1. So then that will affect you. But if they don't withdraw it, and if you're working remotely and they have a job for you, when you come back, then it doesn't affect your H1.
Yeah, no, actually, I'll be back in 2 months actually, because it's for my mom.
Which is fine. You can travel, work remotely, and then come back after 2 months. That's fine.
Okay. Okay, because I was just worried the immigration firm might say, oh no, H1B have to be inside the US, they should not work outside the US kind of thing.
No, you can stay as many years as you want outside the country. That is, it doesn't affect your H1 status as long as when you come back, you have a valid job offer. So they might ask you, what were you doing for so long? How do we know if you still have a job? So make sure you have an updated job offer letter and maybe the PO or something. Just carry that with you so that if the officer asks also, you're able to show.
Sure. Thank you for calling. So will both the attorney and the client need to create a USCIS account online for the H1B electronic registration process?
Yeah, so as we discussed in the step-by-step process, the attorney will create an account and then the employer will create an account and then the attorney will fill out all the information and send it within that account itself from account to account for review. And then the employer will accept it and then that will pop up in the attorney's account and then they'll be able to submit it. So it's something that can be done within accounts. So yes, both have to create so that, because the employer also has to review and okay the information.
Okay. And what is a golden immigration message to the viewers?
Well, I think since we're talking about the H1B registration process this time, I think the most important thing is to file before the deadline. And also make sure that the attorney or whoever is working on your case looks at the overall picture just even before doing the registration, and that's what we are doing at our firm as well. We are actually pre-approving these cases because we don't want to file the registration and then find out that the person is not eligible for a H1. So that's a waste of time, and also USCIS will question it. So it's important to look at the entire application before you do the review. Make sure that the person qualifies for the H1, make sure that the company qualifies, and then do the H1B registration. So that's how we are doing it, and I think everyone, the viewers out there should also do it that way.
So that's all I have. Thank you, Prashanthi Reddy, for joining us today and answering the questions on the H1B registration process. And that's the end of the show. Please do follow us every Wednesday on the same time. Thank you.
Thank you.